Greetings, YouTube. I want you to imagine that you have decided to run a new campaign, and you're going to base this campaign on Hamlet. Not a bad piece of source material, no, is it? And you get your group together, and they all sit down at the table for character creation session. And one of the players tells you that he wants to play a Space Marine. You look at the player somewhat incredulously, and you say, you are aware that we're playing a campaign based on Hamlet, right? And they say, yes, I am aware of this. But you want to play a Space Marine. And they say, yes. They said, genetically engineered super soldier, powered armor, plasma blaster, flamers, the whole 9 yards. And the player looks at you and shakes your head in affirmation and says, yes, exactly. That's what I want to play. So, the reason I'm bringing this up is that I have a question I need answered. Is the GM obligated to accommodate the player? Now, you could have said, of course, well, that's absurd. Space Marines have no place in a campaign based on Hamlet, and you could be correct. But is it also an obligation of the GM to meet the halfway point? So, yes, you can't have a genetically engineered super soldier with powered armor and blasters and flamers and things. But is it the GM's obligation to come up with the most Space Marine-like character that the player can play within the wheelhouse of the campaign idea itself? So you want to have, a rough, tough warrior dedicated to the king, willing to, lay down their lives at a moment's notice, that kind of thing. That is using the most anachronistic types of armor and weapons in the game. Is that the GM's obligation? Is it up to the GM to meet the player halfway, even though the halfway point is still well outside the sphere of the campaign? Now, some might be saying that this is kind of a weird thing for me to postulate, and you'd also be correct. So why am I bringing it up? I'm bringing it up because I did a video a while back concerning the use of evil players in my campaigns. Now, please notice how I stress that. Me, personally, my campaigns. There was a bit of confusion when I did that video, because some people seem to think I was saying that I don't want evil characters in D&D, period. Now, while I don't think evil characters have any place in a high fantasy game like D&D or Pathfinder, that's my campaign. What someone else does with their campaign is up to them. To use a turn of phrase that's being highly touted amongst the kids, as they say, you do you. Alright? So if someone else wants to run evil characters, let them. And someone had said that the examples I had given weren't examples of evil characters, they were examples of psychotic characters. And I don't necessarily think I can disagree with them. They were psychotic characters. And then the person gave some wonderful examples of how evil characters can be used subtly to produce a character that is a schemer, a conniver, a manipulator, or a neutral evil character that works with neutral, lawful evil character that works with lawful neutral people because they can get away with it because there's enough similarities between lawful neutral and lawful evil so that they can hide behind the legality, if you will. And, well, in the latter case, I disagree, because a lawful evil character is going to be doing the classic, the ends justify the means, and they don't. Whereupon I was being accused of interjecting my personal beliefs into my own campaign, which is just kind of like, in my opinion, being someone complaining to me that I'm wearing my own pants. You're right. They are my personal beliefs in my own campaign. When it comes to high fantasy, I don't want evil characters. I don't want people that are playing characters that believe the ends justify the means. Because that means, on some level, the player believes that. Even if they're pretending. I don't want someone pretending that the ends justify the means. Because that is such a warped and toxic worldview, I don't want it around myself, particularly as entertainment. I brought up the example during this whole process that, that me saying no evil characters is no different than saying no Klingons in your classic fantasy game, in your classic, Pathfinder core game with just the standard races and saying no Klingons. And he thought that was being arbitrary, and it was his job as a GM to accommodate the player in the most as much as possible. So, for example, he would allow the player to come up with the most Klingon-like character they could within the confines of the Pathfinder core rules. So you could play an orc, say, or a half orc that has like Worf, who comes as a very rigid warrior structure kind of thing. And heck, I've played half orcs and orcs as Klingons in my campaigns in the past, so I could buy that completely. But a Klingon and an orc or half orc is a whole lot closer than a Space Marine is to Hamlet. And for me, an evil player character in a campaign I'm running of high fantasy under an alignment system is just a fit that doesn't work. Now, why do I not like them? Well, like I said before, the mental process behind even pretending to play an evil character is not something I want around me. We are what we practice. So there are times when I want to practice nothing but neutrality and goodness. That I don't want to practice evil. I don't want that around me. And I don't think that is being unreasonable. I really don't. But there's another reason for it. That the players at the table will know that one of their fellow players is playing the evil character. Unless they are so good. I mean, they should be on the stage winning Academy Awards and Tonys and Emmys. The players will figure out that one of the people in their group is playing an evil person, an evil character. And since there is no way to differentiate, yeah, here you go, player knowledge from character knowledge, eventually the character will figure out that there is an evil character amongst their number. And once you have that knowledge in the character level, you're going to end up with character conflicts. Character strife, which is then going to bleed into player conflict and player strife. And that's what I want to avoid. I don't want player strife. I don't want player conflict. This is what I do for fun. And I'm sure that there are people out there that want those kind of Machiavellian style games, those machinations that of power plays and deals with the devil and what have you, and they love that moral ambiguity and things like that. And have at it, folks. There are entire television genres out there tailored for you, and I don't want anything to do with any of them. This is just me. This is me doing me. And I don't want evil player characters. I don't want the Space Marine in Hamlet. So I need to know, is that unreasonable? Or, to my opinion, is it any different than saying there aren't going to be any psionics in my campaign? Now, I would never say that because I love psionics. But there are lots of GMs that do say it. They don't want psionics in their game. Okay, there are no psionics in your world. So if somebody comes along and says, oh, I want to play a psionic character, is the GM obligated to give them the most psionic character they can? Or does the GM have the right to say no? Or the GM says, no firearms, no gunpowder, no smoke powder in my campaigns. It just doesn't exist. Is the GM obligated to let someone play a gunslinger? Now, it's my opinion, no, they are not. No Space Marines in Hamlet. No gunslingers in a world without gunpowder or smoke powder. No psionic characters in a world without psionics. Now, there will be those who say that I'm a traditional style person, that I'm not letting the player have enough influence on the campaign, and you are correct. I want the players to be interacting with the campaign world at the character level. When they're interacting at the player level, then you're playing a narrative game. And I don't want to play narrative games. When someone says, I'm going to put on a production of Hamlet, you come prepared to play a role in a production of Hamlet. You shouldn't coming there prepared to play a Space Marine. And I don't think that's unreasonable. Now, I've got a lot of leeway. There has never been a Gamma World campaign that didn't end up in a D&D world. There has never been a D&D game I've run that hasn't ended up in Gamma World. I've thrown superheroes into post-apocalyptic settings. Well, 4th edition Gamma World in many ways is a superhero game, but that's another topic. I'm willing to have a lot of leeway. But my hard and fast rule is no evil player characters. Now, you can play a conniving, scheming backstabber to a certain extent by playing a chaotic neutral character, and I don't think they're psychotic either. I think they're self-serving. So I think you can play a 80 to 90% of one of those characters and probably still end up having created character and player strife at some point in the campaign, because that's what the player wants, I guess. But you can do it, and you don't have to play evil. So I think it's possible to let someone play as much as they want of that without actually playing an evil character. And I'm willing to accommodate them on that level. Play chaotic neutral. Or play true neutral if you want to play a character that's a little more of a by-the-book balance kind of individual. And again, I think that you're going to be able to play enough of the characteristics of an evil character that you can get away with it. And I've accommodated people in the class this way, and I had no problem with it. But sometimes we have lines in the sand that we don't want someone to cross. And that's one of mine. So, in closing, I've been rambling long enough. Is a GM obligated to accommodate the Space Marine in Hamlet?